Okay, we're waiting for more people to come in because they're just making an announcement that we're starting this now. But do you want to ask Tamsen anything right now while you've got her in a smaller group? State your name, please.
Hi, my name is Nastran. Thank you so much for coming. I'm just curious, I did learn a lot from that video. I'm curious why you made it to begin with. Like, what was it that pushed you over the edge? You were like, I need to help produce this and make it, and why?
Yeah, I love that question.
Well, we are going to cover some of that, but you can give a broad stroke on that.
Okay. Well, I've been a journalist for 30 years, so I was actually in a newsroom when I had menopause symptoms that I didn't know were menopause symptoms, and I shared those with somebody who was a producer of the Today Show, and she had left her job as a result of symptoms at work. She was having a hard time just remembering things, dealing with people in meetings. And we said, well, we really have to put together some information for women because we're all sharing stories and asking the same things and not getting a whole lot of answers. So we kind of went on this quest. We got turned down quite a few times when it came to asking people like, hey, would you want to air a menopause documentary? People were like, documentary on menopause? No, thank you. So we had a lot of rejection on it, a lot of rejection when it came to funding. But we kept pushing forward because we knew the questions were really important and the answers were more important. And then we met up with 2 documentarians in Los Angeles. And so the 4 of us came together and said, we're going to ask as many of these top experts, leading experts at research institutes, what they know, what the research says, what we know to date, and put this together for women. And we didn't know where it was going to go. We didn't know if it would be on YouTube or where it would be. And it wound up that PBS partnered with us. But you know, my why is because that's exactly the questions that I had that I didn't have the answers to for a long time.
I mean, how cool is it that she co-produced a film because she had a mission in her mind, and now you're watching it. It's being screened around the world, by the way. Did you know that? How many countries?
Yeah, we just hit 42 countries.
Right.
Thank
42 countries. In how many years?
We released it the day before World Menopause Day, October 17th. I think we released it before the 18th. Yeah, so it's been just a few months now, but it took about 3 years plus to put it together. Yeah.
So this is a perfect example of a woman who had something in her mind, felt it in her gut, and made it happen. And every single one of you can do that. If you show up for yourself and you stay true to yourself, you can do, well, maybe not the film, but maybe the film, but whatever it is that you want to do, that's the message that we're going to talk about right now, is really giving yourself permission to pivot, tapping into your superpower, because we're going to get more into the myths around menopause in the next discussion in the main room. So I do want to welcome you to Paramus, New Jersey, Bergen County, all the way from NYC. This experience, actually, I guess I manifested it. My best friend from high school said, you need to come and see this film. It's called The M Factor. It's about menopause in Montclair. Now, I'm very lucky. Don't throw anything at me. But my teeth moved, my cholesterol's high, and I definitely have a tire on my back. But that's it. That's it for me, okay? So why do I need to go to a menopause movie? I'm really fine. And as she's talking to me, she's literally sweating in front of my eyeballs. So I said, okay, I'll go. I'll go and I'll see this movie. And you don't know what you don't know. Now I know a lot. And so I heard this woman, Tamsen Fadal, is coming, and she is one of the producers. So I don't even know if you remember, I didn't even really give her a minute to walk into the space, but I was ready for her. I had my camera ready for a selfie, and I wrote her a note. And my name's TH, by the way. For any of you who don't know, I produce events in this area, actually several in this space, many called Women for Women Today, the Angwood Night Market. And so this is my event with Dr. Tracy Verico. So I really do welcome you all here as well to Demystify Menopause. So I met Tamsen, and I have this picture, and I'm like, okay, so now what am I going to do? And I had told Tamsen upstairs briefly, and I'll very quickly share with you, and we'll get into the conversation, that I was speaking with Dr. Tracy Verico as a friend and saying, I don't really see why I need to worry about menopause. I'll just go to the dentist, I'll go to my primary doctor, and I'll lose some weight. I'll try a different diet or something like that. And she explained to me why all of that is bullshit, and I need to really understand menopause because I am a woman who is 54 years old. That's why. Has nothing to do that my symptoms are different than yours and yours and yours. It's because we are midlife and we need to learn about our bodies and how things are changing. You can't feel everything that's happening inside of you, but you have to learn it. So all of you have shown up for yourselves today, and I want to give you a round of applause for wanting to learn, wanting to take charge of your health and your life, because if your health is priority. Okay, so let's get into this. If you have not yet been to a TH experience or a Women for Women Today experience, I always challenge you when you walk in the door to tell me what your superpower word is. And I want you all to think about it, and it has to be a word that describes how you serve yourself first. I don't want to hear mother, daughter, sister, friend, colleague. None of those can come into play. I want you to really think about what that word is. So that's what I want to ask you, Tamsen. What is your superpower word?
I think if I, like, spur of the moment, I think curiosity would be my superpower word, because I think it always leads me to what I need for any of those areas, whether it's doing a midlife pivot that I did, getting married for a second time at the age of 50. Like, everything is always rooted from the film, rooted from curiosity. So I think that would be mine.
And it makes sense, you being on television, and you're really also a storyteller. I see you as a storyteller. And so you have to have a curious mind if you're going to be able to tell stories and you want to learn more and you want to then pay it forward. So that is what I want you all to think about, is what your superpower word is. Mine is creator. I am the creator of opportunities that are impactful and memorable, and I hope that's how tonight serves you all. So I want to talk to you about your permission to pivot, because we know we have had many pivots in our lives that we don't get to choose. Shit happens, right? It's another day, another kid, somebody else is sick, it's bad news, you don't feel good, and somehow we just turn it around. But how powerful is it when you can choose your pivot? So I really would like you to share that with everyone.
Yeah, I think for a long time, I love that you said that, because I think that it's not always easy, and I used to get this question all the time, like, hey, what do you think your next chapter is going to be? And I was like, I don't know. I barely know that I'm in this one. Like, I could never figure out what that meant. And I didn't really have any plans. I worked at WPIX TV for 15 years, anchoring the evening news. Thank you. Thank you. And, you know, I really love telling the stories of the tri-state area. That's what I did every night. I put, you know, the tri-state area to bed. That's what I did. And I really loved doing that. And when this happened, I had no intention of leaving my job. I didn't know that was what I was going to be doing. I was like cruising along fine, but I couldn't stop. And when you say storyteller, I couldn't stop coming up against this, like, oh, there's more, there's more. Like, this is a story we haven't told. Why haven't we told it? Why are there 1 billion women in menopause? And this was like 2019, 2020, and 2025 seemed very far away. But as of this year, 1 billion women globally will be in menopause. And so when I heard that, I was like, well, how has nobody ever told me this before? I lost my mother at an early age, so it was never a conversation I had with her. But then I realized women that had their mothers hadn't had that conversation either. And so I just kept digging and digging and digging. And so 16 months ago, almost to the day, I walked away from my career to tell this bigger story, because I couldn't stop talking about it. And I would sit there at night. My dear friend Allison is here, and she and I are neighbors, and she would hear me go like, I don't know, I'm going to leave my job. Like, how am I going to do that? But then I have to tell this story. This is what I have to do. I felt so drawn to that. And so that's how I ended up here and working on the documentary and, you know, eventually the book. But it doesn't come without a lot of fear and a lot of questioning yourself and uncertainty. And every once in a while, I'll wake up in a cold sweat that might be a hot flash, it might be a night sweat, or it might be fear. And I'm like, what did I just do? But I really know deep down that I gave myself permission to do that. And I don't regret that. Thank you.
So when I also speak about permission to pivot, I have 5 pillars that I kind of want to dig a little deeper with you on. Last year, I gave myself permission to pivot away from a startup that I created with my best friend. It's called X Experts. We spent 4 years building it to help anybody touched by divorce because we had very difficult divorces, got divorced at the exact same time. Our husbands were doing bad things. But how lucky were we to have one another? I mean, it was really our best gift. That's what we got in our divorces. We got each other. So we wanted to build something similar to you wanting to build something around menopause. We wanted to build something to make a difference in divorce. I mean, divorce is still as taboo as anything else. Like, shh, she's getting a divorce. Don't let her over. She's going to look at your husband. Some, like, stupid shit like that, you know? Anyway, so we were going to build something. My divorce took 4 years, so I couldn't help anybody. But then in 2020, which happened to be about 7 months before COVID, so it was a great time to start a business. You're getting stimulus checks, unemployment, unlimited health care, whatever. So we started our company, and we self-funded, and we put our heart and soul in it. And the goal was to make a difference for anybody touched by divorce, which is great. Except money wasn't part of that conversation. So we achieved our goal. Our podcast has 250,000 plays, and we help anybody, men, women, anybody getting a divorce. But I like joy and money. So last year I decided that's my goal, joy and money. And I had the opportunity to bring these in-person events back. And this is everything. This is such a gift for me to see you all showing up here and learning and engaging and making new friends. I mean, you're all in the same spot here, ladies and gentlemen. You're very supportive, by the way. Kudos to you. You're all in the same position here, so look around at all the other women in this space who are sharing the same experience that you share. So, first one is passion, which you talked about a little bit. But I want to know, why menopause? I mean, there are a million things that you could be entertaining and, can you hear me? There are a million things that you can be a master of. Yeah. So why?
You know what? I got to tell you, every once in a while I'm like, menopause. I've talked about menopause a lot. My husband and I work across the dining room table from each other, and every once in a while I see him pick up the computer like, okay, I don't want to hear any more about lube. Like, you can hear it on my Zoom calls. Stop talking. Like, you're talking very loud. You know, I've covered a lot of stories. I was a journalist for 30 years. This one I kept pushing up against because it wasn't just menopause. You know, it was the 360 of a woman. It was the next chapter. It was what happens when we're here. It was what happens in our society, in a very ageist, very sexist society. So it really was never just menopause, but I think all of this was kind of wrapped into it. And I was seeing women, including myself, losing a lot of confidence, being as wise as I had ever been, and feeling like crap about myself because of my symptoms and because of what was happening. So when I look at menopause, I don't just look at it in the doctor's office. I look at it in the bedroom, the boardroom, when it comes to boundaries, relationships. It's a full 360. I went through a divorce myself when I was 40 years old, and I thought my perimenopause symptoms were all a result of divorce. And little did I know that, you know, I had been going through a whole lot at that same time. So there was a lot of overlap there. And I also think that this is a time in a woman's life when you're dealing with menopause and hormones, you're dealing with children, aging parents, career changes, feeling like, am I still relevant, or my best years behind me? So I think that's what I think of menopause, and I think there are some real gifts on the other side of it, and so that's what I'm always hoping to get. When I think of menopause, I think of those gifts once we get beyond, so many of the things we didn't know.
And you're in it. So you had a TikTok, right, that went viral. Yeah. Do you want to share that with everybody? Because that was a very vulnerable thing for you to do. Yeah. And look at how it exploded. Was that kind of an impetus or a validation for the direction you wanted to head in?
I think at the time it was nerve-wracking because I was in a career that really embraced youth. And so I had been told early on in my career, like when you start getting into your 40s, 45 years old, there's not a lot of like older female anchors and younger men. It's usually the opposite, an older man and a younger woman. So just be prepared to make some kind of, career change. We didn't even have the word pivot then. It's like just make some kind of career change down the line. So that was always in my mind. But no, I don't think when I went on TikTok because at the time, to be honest, I was too scared to go on Instagram because I was like, oh, I know too many people on Instagram. I don't want them to know I'm talking about this. So I'll go on TikTok because nobody's there. I mean, this is 2020. And I'll just, it's like, I want to just talk about this. It was COVID. I was like doing the news out of my back bedroom. Like I was little, And so my husband was running back and forth with like ice cubes that I could like put between my legs right here in a cup. Like he was my like production assistant running back and forth in the house during COVID, so we could deliver the news so I could stay cool in the lights. So, so when I did that video, I just listed out the symptoms of menopause because I was so blown away by the fact there was like 34 symptoms that had just like been listed out. So I was just reading them like burning tongue, whatever they were. And that went viral. I mean, that just went like, it got so many hits that nothing else I'd ever done had gotten that. And so I was like, I guess there's some people on TikTok that want to talk about menopause. And so, but I was very cautious. Like I tread very lightly because I wasn't sure. And then when I eventually did it on Instagram, I'm like, I think I'm going to talk about, okay, I'm just going to press send or press, I uploaded the video and then that conversation took on a life of its own. Yeah.
So passion with a pivot is really key, and also being capable. So when I think about your pivot, you have your passion. The timing was right for you because your body literally was telling you it's time. You're more than capable with all of your experience, and you had a goal in mind to make a difference. And that's there are a lot of things. It must be weird for you to have people like me say, there's so many things that we're alike on, and you don't know me from a hole in the wall.
No, I was thinking
like,
that
I
when
just
you said
met
you
you
went
10
through a
minutes
divorce.
ago. Really, my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer at 41. I have been screened forever. I also had a very contentious, very difficult divorce, even though it was a total hallelujah and one of the best gifts ever. And a few other things, but they all required a pivot. And when I pivoted into this space, for you, don't you feel like I'm where I belong right now? This is everything. This is the gift.
Yeah, I totally do. I don't think I'd ever felt like that before. I wake up every morning very excited. I go to bed every night, can't wait to wake up the next morning. And I think that even when like things are hard or something happens that doesn't feel good, I know what my end goal is. And we talked about our mothers, just for a second to touch on that. Breast cancer was always something that was top of mind. That was always the charities I did. That was everything that I discussed. That was everything I was very fearful of. So to be talking about this part and having not had that roadmap, I think I think I wanted to help create that roadmap for maybe another woman that doesn't have a mother or doesn't have a mother that was talking about it because I didn't. And so hopefully that's helpful.
Well, side note, I did a bone density test. And I came out, I'm going to say it wrong, so you'll correct me, where's Tracy?
Osteopenia?
Yes. Okay, in my hips and in my neck. So I call my mother and I go, did you test positive for that from your bone density test? She goes, oh yeah. I go, okay, you want to share with me? She's like, do I need to share with you? I said, I think you do. So I think it's a generational thing anyway. She didn't tell me anything. She had medically induced menopause from chemo and all the stuff after her diagnosis. And I think that we need to ask our aunts, we need to ask our mothers, we need to ask our family because they're not going to volunteer it because they don't know that it's something that they need to share. And so that's a really important thing.
Yeah, and I also think it was this whole generation as a result of that study that really got left out of the conversation in a lot of ways. So I know a lot of doctors will say to me, wow, I have women that went past that 10 years of when they went into menopause to where they are right now and were never offered hormones or never had even the discussion whether it was hormonal or non-hormonal to talk about and feel very left out of that conversation. And that's just so not fair. And that is another reason that a lot of mothers mothers have not talked about daughters, and you know, it's gone generationally. So I hope we can end that now, and I know that every time I talk about it, every time I see a young girl, I was at an event last night, and a young girl came up, and she was 15, and I said, "Are you hearing about menopause?" She's like, "Oh yeah, I know everything about perimenopause." And I was like, "Wow, that's amazing." I was in Miami a few weeks ago with my husband, and we were crossing the street, and a young girl leaned out her car. She rolled down her car window at a stoplight, and she said, "Tamsen," and I turned, and she goes, "I'm in perimenopause," and threw up her arm, and I went. And so I was like so excited, right? Isn't that cool? And so I thought, wow, people are real excited about it. And my husband goes, "What'd you say?" And I said, "She's in perimenopause." He goes, "It's like a club?" Or I go, "Kind of."
Yeah,
so
you're
I thought
totally
that was
starting
promising.
a movement. And Tamsen has a new podcast called The Tamsen Show. She has Halle Berry on there. And she just produced, well, why don't you tell them what you just did in Vegas?
Oh,
So cool.
I had an idea in the shower, and I was like, what if we celebrate menopause instead of anything else? And I had seen all these screenings happen across the world, like Italy and France and just everywhere. And I said, why don't we maybe have a party? I said, what if we called it the world's hottest menopause party? Ha ha ha. And then I couldn't stop thinking of that idea. And so we planned a virtual party, part in person, as you know, and digital. And so we had virtual, and we had women in groups all across the world tune in to the party. Thank you.
Excellent.
So it was real exciting, and we had a lot of experts come. We did a Q&A, and we just really wanted to kick off March for Women's History Month. But then after it was done, I was like, wow, that was really fun. What if we do it next year? And my team was like, don't talk about anything until another month. And so anyway, but that's my plan.
I
'Cause
think
we
we're
should
all in
be
for
celebrating
that.
this time.
That was awesome. I did watch that too, by the way. It was like you just wanted to get up and cheer and dance around in your space while you're watching them through the computer in Vegas. It just looked, you wanted to be a part of the pink pom-pom action that was going on over there. So now we just want to know about you as a person. So what are you binge watching lately?
Binge watching Severance. I have the final episode left of season 2, so nobody tell me anything. And I think it's the final. And what else am I doing? That was it. I finished like a ton of stuff because I can't sleep at night sometimes because I'm like constantly thinking. So I just sit and I watch it, I watch it, and then I go in the bedroom and fall asleep. So Severance is my thing.
And what is your sweet treat?
What's my
Dessert.
favorite treat
Yeah.
of dessert? I like cupcakes. Like that's my thing, cupcakes. But I'm more of a pizza, carbs. Give me carbs, girl. Yeah,
I love carbs. They don't
bread
love
and
me.
olive oil.
Yeah, love carbs. And if you were to have a cocktail, what would it be?
My cocktail. I love champagne. I love
Ooh,
champagne.
nice.
Yeah.
And coffee or tea?
Oh, coffee.
Ah, okay. All right, well, we're going to wrap this up now, everybody.